Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of a walk down memory lane with the RPF and general prop and model and costume scene. Today I'm joined by Bryan Babich again and Matt Munson, all the way from sunny California, right?
It is sunny Southern California right now. Yes, sir.
Yeah, very nice. Cool. So welcome. I assumed you watched the first one. I know this because you said so, basically, and it like opened a door to your mind, brain, rememberies.
It did. It did. As the kids would say these days, I was triggered, but in a good way. It triggered a lot of interesting memories, and it was sort of shocking how similar my path was to both of you guys, as far as discovering the hobby, discovering the RPF, the whole sort of gateway into it. I had to get sort of ushered in by a senior member. Good stuff.
Who was that senior member? I'm curious.
For me, remember?
Yeah,
it was Babich.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Yeah, I'll try to compact it. I've been digging through my memories the past couple days. That thread you sent in Facebook Messenger was the Rick Ross PKD recast.
Isn't it just like it? Like, was it you that said it was a masterclass in like RPF like royalty at the time or whatever?
It was good. Like everyone's there. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. I remember that guy. But
yeah.
God, so petty. Just the whole thing. Don't get me wrong. I know it was as serious as a heart attack back in the day. I remember.
Yeah.
Just how like, oh my God, what an affront to Rick Ross, talented guy, right? But and then playing all his games, sending out the recast to the original owner, like
And yeah, it really was like a play-by-play on all the crazy shit that would go down, in like all condensed into one great little thread. I love how I responded with nothing but exclamation points at one point.
Classic Moff Eaton.
Yes. Yeah. Classic Moff Eaton. Yeah, and it's funny, like I feel like I'm one of the few that never changed my handle. Like
I'm in that camp too.
Yeah. I was like, nah, I'm sticking with it. Like,
yeah. See, I feel like I pioneered using your real name as your screen name on the RPF. It was always like Jedi Doofus or Jedi 1138 or Jedi Boner or something.
Well, I'm Moff Eaton, but yeah. I mean, it was, at least there's an element of me in there.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time it was a fun pun on being Moff Eaton, like, like a sweater from your closet or something.
Layers.
Yeah, layers that no one ever saw. Or mentioned anyway. But yeah, it is funny, like starting to think about all the people that came and went, that came and changed. Like I think we had talked online a little bit over the past week. Jedi Scout, like I remember, she seemed to be one of the few females on RPF at all, and seemed to have a very metered emotional response to everything. Like, which was almost like, I guess you're the de facto mom, because like she would come in a thread and be like, now boys, like, everyone put your guns away and relax.
Y'all need to calm down.
Yeah. And I like to think like that she's still out there actively pursuing the hobby, just in a more personal way. I don't know what happened to like, I start wondering, like, what happened to Wolf Morgan? Like,
I thought he's dead. I thought he died.
Yeah,
that's great. And Bryan, just to make sure it's on the video, that is a beautiful R2D2 I see behind you. Nicely done, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. He just looks pretty.
That's all it takes, man. That's my motto. I mean, come on, it's gotten me this far.
That's what the RPF was built on, right? It looks pretty. All right, that's good enough. We're good. It's rotten on the inside, but it looks good.
Are we talking about the RPF or like the stuff we build?
Yes.
Okay, good. Meta commentary. I like that.
Yeah, I built that probe droid. I just finished it yesterday. And after everything had been completely sealed up, to the point where if I needed to get back in it, I would have to do like a couple weeks worth of redoing. of parts and stuff, the head developed this like weird like shake back and forth wobble thing, and we think it might be like a bum servo. But after a couple of suicidal days went by, it was like, I don't want to make things anymore. I have settled on, and other people have said this, it's got character. It's very much in keeping with Star Wars robots. It's got like a weird little fluke to it, and
could it by chance be it has a bad motivator?
Yeah, it definitely has a bad motivator, or potentiometer. That's that. But I like that.
Also could also be that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that it's funny because because I've been reflecting on all this stuff. It makes me think about the things that I've built and failures that I've had, and we don't put our failures online usually. Like, so there's this perception that everything that people make, like, I'm sure people think everything I make is great, and I'm like, you don't see all the parts that I messed up, because I don't necessarily want to share that, because it's not, to me, like a fun thing. So to kick this off with Matt, can you think of things that you have, let's start with, how did you find the RPF? How'd you come to it? What were you initially into doing or making or learning about?
That's easy. And it's all been refreshed recently in my memory when I watched your guys' first video, which was amazing, by the way. Thank you for doing that. I don't know what motivated that, but I'm glad you guys did. It was really awesome.
We're old. We see the things are changing rapidly, and we want those whippersnappers to know where they came from.
That's right. That's right.
It's nostalgic.
Not like we just Googled, how do I make a lightsaber? And then I got there.
Yeah.
So if I remember correctly, I was a big action figure enthusiast, not only as a child, but when the Power of the Force series started, I kind of got back into action figure collecting. And at the time, I was working at an internet startup. So it's probably maybe 1995, 96. And I would frequent websites like Yak Face, which still has a wonderful Instagram presence. And I stumbled on this, it was a Star Wars action figure customization listserv run by our man, Philip Wise. And Philip had like a website where, and it was crazy technology, guys. Like there was a camera of his office, and you could like poke him and he'd wave at the camera. Like it was nuts. I remember I'd like just do it and he'd like wait, craziness. And through that, very similar to you guys, like when I was at university, I remember very distinctly, I was working in the computer lab, and I discovered that Star Wars versus Titanic thing that led me to the Force.net. And the real hook was they had revealed that Qui-Gon Jinn's communicator was made out of a Gillette razor.
Yeah, the lady razor.
What? It was like an article on the Force.net or something. And now as a kid, when I was like 7, I made my first lightsaber, and I like had a Han Solo blaster, the Kenner toy. So I was very into like the material of the Star Wars universe beyond just like the toys. Like I thought lightsaber was the coolest thing ever. And then like later on life, I learned that it was, this Graflex flash something or other. And I was like, what does that even mean? So Force.net, I started poking around trying to learn about this razor, because I really wanted to make one. And that's when I ran into this guy named Babich, who was selling the little washer luggy, solder lugs, I think they're called.
Yeah.
And so I messaged him and I was like, hey man, can I get a set of those? And he's like, you should come check out this. I don't know if it was called the RPF at the time, but he's like, you should come check out this forum where we're all building Star Wars props and stuff. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. So, and there I was. So that probably would have been maybe 1997, 98 or something.
Yeah, I think you definitely predate me, because I remember seeing you talking on the RPF, thinking, what a handsome man. Now, I like thinking like, okay, this guy knows some shit. Like I do remember the names of the people, like, there was Gavadoc, and Babich was big. Jay.
Yeah.
There was
RJ's father.
Husel.
yeah.
Hazel.
Jay Heilman, or there was Jay hyphen, but there was also there's another J, damn it. And then there was MK Stewart Esquire.
Oh yeah, Mike Stewart Esquire. Yeah.
And was he like a lawyer? Was one of the guys was
I
a
assume
lawyer?
so.
Somebody was a lawyer. There was Lord of Baden.
ASA Law, Aurelio Sanchez Arango.
That's who it is. I think that's
his name, right?
yeah.
Big Star Trek dude. Yeah.
And all these guys like D Steins, woo, like they all seemed like, because I was so new, everyone seemed like an elder to me. Like these guys have been talking for a while. They all know each other. It was very, very intimidating. Did you feel intimidated, or were you there early enough that it was like informal?
No, I definitely, even at that tender young age of however old I was then, like I was still very much like I played it very safe. Like I sort of wanted to learn the lay of the land before I jumped in. I wanted to learn the people, wanted to learn just the flow of the forum and kind of the etiquette, what makes a good first post, what makes a good post in general.
Yeah.
I think initially I was really I really just wanted to like make a contribution, either in conversation, like I wanted to bring something with me. I want to be able to contribute something, either conversationally or with something I was building. And that stupid little communicator was sort of a good opportunity, because everyone was kind of scrambling for all the parts. And like a dude on the forum, I think his name might've been Blade with a Y. He sort of surreptitiously turned me on to those little Canon plug connectors, the antennas.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent me a bunch because he was like an Air Force mechanic or something.
Wow.
So now I have like the components for a really good Qui-Gon Jinn communicator.
You still have it?
I never finished one.
That's so perfect.
Like, classic, right? Like I sold a bunch of kits. Like I molded all the parts and I cast them. I sold a bunch of them, but like I think I just sort of quickly lost interest in that as a prop, especially once the movie came out. I was just like, So and then it was all downhill from there, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it. That's how I found the RPF.
Cool. And do you remember any failures? Like you said you didn't build, you never finished one of the communicators, but did you ever build anything and just like it just didn't go right? And like, how did that inform your next thing, or did it discourage you at all, or any of that?
Gosh, that's a great question. I would say most of my projects have an element of failure to them.
Excellent.
And I actually, I sort of enjoy the process though. In fact, I might even posit that I enjoy the process more than the artifact that is created as a result of it. That's which kind of side topic is what eventually got me less interested in actual prop replicas and more in like colossal replicas. Like I would even cite R2D2 or like a TARDIS or a Batmobile, things that are sort of have utility beyond something that sits on a shelf. Because what I would do is invest all this time, energy, and money into sort of crafting something. And when it was done, I'd kind of go, oh, cool. And then that's the end of it. That's it. The end of its life cycle is sitting on a shelf and in the hopes that one day I or someone might appreciate it. And so I found other stuff like the Batmobile. I'm like, I can do stuff with that. Like my TARDIS, I did stuff with it. Same thing with R2D2. So like those bigger things. So failures, gosh, I let me count the ways. Like, man, pretty much any project. Like I would cite my Superman Returns costume replica as something that's just sort of been a never-ending exercise in materials evaluation, experimentation with techniques, trying to duplicate techniques that were used in movies, learning new skills. But for me, it turns out like that's the fun part, I guess. That's the lesson I learned. Trying to think if I can, like, gosh, I remember I made like there was a run. Remember Babich active projects?
Oh yeah.
say what you will about Bo Bidet, man. The dude did a lot of great things for the RPF.
He did.
And he sort of pioneered this thing called an active project, where it's basically a group project where there's sort of a ringleader who ushers you through the steps in delivering the thing. And there was a run of Luke Return of the Jedi lightsabers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if, I think it was a Bo Bidet active project. I don't remember, but I remember I got this aluminum blank, and you're supposed to, like, you had to paint it, and you had to sort of build the thing and clamp the thing. And something went wrong with the painting. And I was hanging out with Brundlefly at the time. And he's like, oh, what you need to do is just spray it with oven cleaner, and that'll take the paint off. And I was like, all right. So it turns out oven cleaner is corrosive to aluminum. So I kind of sprayed the thing down, and it did. Now, in his defense, it did remove the paint, but also sort of totally screwed up the texture of the thing. And I was like, okay, lesson learned.
Yeah.
Don't trust Brundlefly. I mean, no, sorry, that was not the takeaway. The takeaway was don't use easy off on a lightsaber hilt.
Yeah. Were you able to salvage it, like polish the surface back down?
No, I sold it. I sold it for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
I think, I would say if I had to pick a recurring theme is I drop stuff all the time. Like I'll just be working on something, I'll be doing that final coat of 2000 grit wet sanding, and then it'll just sort of slip out of my hand and crash on the floor, and then I'm back to square one. I've done that endless times.
The scene, for whatever reason, gets under people's skin, and they think they can start a company. Like we were talking about Titan that turned into Chronicle, and how that flamed out spectacularly. Unobtainium was in between Icons and Master.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah.
They had the Enterprise that was made of resin, and the resin leached.
That's right. The nacelles started sagging.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many companies was a principal on also. I think he's had like 7 companies now.
Yeah. You can get ripped off in this hobby and scene professionally and just as a fan in both capacities. I have been completely taken advantage of, and I'm not naming any company names, but at one point, when I really, really could have used it, I did about 10 grand worth of freelance work and never got it. And there was another guy who was part of that company that sort of flamed out, and or the version of it or whatever. And I'd see him at conventions, and he was just such an angry man about it. And I was angry for about a year. Yeah, it's a lot of money, especially back when it was the Great Recession. So like all the freelance money dried up. Nobody wanted spaceships for a couple of years. But like I sort of saw myself at a sort of emotional crossroads, socially at least, and mental state. Like I can either just put it to rest and lesson learned and make peace with it and go on, or I can be bitter and just cranky about this shit ad nauseum. And I think he's still mad about it, and it just makes me so sad that he couldn't. I look at it as a cautionary tale. That could have been me.
Yeah. Well, I think what's also really terrifying is for many people, not just RPF members, for many people, a loss of 10 grand could be financially devastating. That could ruin your life.
Yeah.
That could, you've got to move back in with your parents, or you're homeless or whatever. So if anything, and I've gone through a few of those, where there's just piles of money lost. And it's the only sort of comfort I can find is, thank goodness that I'm in a position where a loss like that isn't completely devastating to me, which, and I see things on the RPF where, knowing that everyone's in a different place in their life, a product run will come up or something, and you see all the people saying, man, I won't have that $100 until my next payday. Can you hold on until end of the month? Yeah. I'm like, man, this hobby is that it's hard. It's hard to live in this hobby if you got to wait 2 weeks for $100. And then, what what if he goes in on that run and then gets stiffed?
Yeah, which happened
Like-
a lot. I mean, I started thinking about all of the projects that never were. That was it Tomb Raider? There was that like triangular clock.
Clock of Ages, yes,
Clock of
sir.
Ages,
Classic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like did that ever come to be? I mean, what that was
I
run
think-
by.
Ultimately it did come together, but by another person in a completely different situation. It started in a kind of a dark
Yep,
place, I would
that's
say,
right.
dark history, the RPF, and it's been realized by someone extremely competent. But
Yeah.
there are so many projects, I mean, that just did not take flight.
Yeah. Do we want to touch on that horrific like type of thing? Yeah,
I'm posting to the chat, by the way.
Yeah, I saw. Well, I was just about to say, like, do we want to mention that we have had all manner of people come through the RPF, including sexual predators, like complete and total grifters. Like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I was
People
joking,
who
but
fake their own deaths.
People
who- What was that,
fake
Bryan?
Their own deaths.
people who have faked
Yeah.
their own deaths. Yes. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
talking about that. Like, that was pretty nuts. I was joking with Mike Salso on the phone. I was like, we probably have a couple cannibals and we just don't know it yet.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure. For sure. Agreed. Yeah.
But, you know,
Like I think if you sort of had a hat that you can draw from any type of personality makeup, at least one person represents that on the forum.
yeah.
And you know, maybe, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that's one of its strengths. Like there's a lot of diversity. You know, okay. You ever notice like the hobbies reach such an interesting point of maturity where like if someone will post, hey, I saw this thing the other day. Does anyone know what it is? And it turns out somewhere on the RPF, there's like a John Deere tractor repairman from the 80s, since retired. And he remembers that piece from one of the ride-on mowers that they offered only in Indianapolis. And he happens to have one out in his garage.
Yeah.
And it's I think that remains one of my favorite things about the forum is when there's just so much group knowledge on that forum.
Yeah.
That like stuff just happens so fast now. I love it.
It's that insert into the blockade runner engines. Like that is, yeah, that is my white whale. That is the Obi-Wan balance pipe emitter mystery that like I didn't think that would ever get solved, and that's incredible. So
did it get solved? I remember you 3D modeling one.
The Obi-Wan thing or the blockade runner?
The blockade runner piece.
No, we still don't know, which is like, there's a part of me that kind of hopes it's never solved, just because it would be like, you know, there was that great mystery in life that out of all the things, it's pretty low level. So it's all right. And we have 3D'd it to the point where it'll be fine. Like there's no, I don't know if there will ever be an actual part percolating to the surface so that you could get 11 of. Bryan has seen these photos too. We're in a rare position where we get access to a lot of unpublished photography that the ILMers took that the first like year or two in Van Nuys, just like personal photographs. Like it wasn't for production, but you know,
really
sitting
well
up.
shot as photographs. I mean, artistically, I think.
Yeah,
Really
well, they're all artists. Yeah. And like the coverage sometimes is kind of terrifyingly weird. Like it just happened that they're both taking pictures of each other. So you get like the whole room, you know, like if you get both roles to look at or whatever. And a shout out to Gene Kazicki, who's going to do one of these too. He's sort of like it all coalesces into Gene's domain. And he has over the years done like sequential, like he'll tell you that's fall of 75, and he could even like get into like whose camera that was. It's incredible. But speaking to the blockade runner part, like over the past couple of years, we've gotten a hold of or seen photos where it's the raw part and they milled it down a little bit to fit into the pipe, to fit into the 6-inch pipe. So we know it's clear, probably thermoplastic. And it was purchased by Paul Houston across the street from an aircraft surplus place. So it was aircraft prior to 75. Who knows how far back?
Narrows it down.
Yeah, yeah. A buddy of mine, one of the ILMers, as a favor, popped one off of the model and said there were no like marks, like
part numbers,
no part number or anything. Yeah, because he knew that they were pressure fit. So like that kind of unfettered access, and we still don't know what it is. Like Jesus Christ, like how it's incredible. But like
on that note, may I ask a question of both of you guys?
Yeah.
What would you cite as like your most mind-blowing discovery you ever witnessed on the forum? Or some sort of piece coming to light, or a part, or a prop reaching the light of day, or some reference coming out, or something like that?
Yeah. Bryan, you want to go first? I got mine.
I'll go first because it was Carl Tate sending me photographs from a WonderCon.
Yep, same. Yep, that's me.
Blade Runner Blaster, right?
Yep.
How can we not? That moment was magic. It was
absolutely mind blowing. Yeah, 100%.
Really was. Yeah. Really was. Yeah.
And then of course I can't tell that story without saying that he also sent them to Rich Coyle, who jumped in his van. And
that's right. That's right.
That barely could run all the way up to California to wherever WonderCon was. I think maybe in San Francisco at the time. So he could hold it in person and take additional reference photos, but nobody beats Carl Tate's reference photos.
That's right.
Say that.
Yeah.
That's right. And it was such a treasure trove too. Like it wasn't just the blaster. They had the IDs. They had some other stuff there. It's just like unbelievable. Yeah. I'll try to come up with another thing while Jason's talking. I'll try to come up with another.
That one that's probably the best. That really is. Because it was such a bonanza, out of the blue, like answering every goddamn question anyone ever had, like irrefutable. Here it is. And it had weird details we'd never seen before, like the Weaver knob and the little wires.
The wires, yeah.
Yeah, the wires. Like what? I loved witnessing the Han Solo blaster thread where somebody found not only the plastic aircraft radial engine cylinder part that was cut in half, or half was used, and it was heat sink for his gun. It was the little communicator that C-3PO used. It was in the X-wing cockpit. That was a classic A New Hope part that somebody found. And the little toggle switches, like those were ID'd, like that are on the bull barrel on they're cut down like bits. They look like toggle switches. They're on the Han Solo gun, but no one ever like was able to figure out what that was like. And it was just really cool to see it just sort of go bang, 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 bang. It's like blaster's done. Like, because they'd even found the T-track, somebody, I think, right, that was on the blasters and the lightsabers. Like somebody found that was like, I don't remember if this was one of the theories or if it turned out it was like track from like a drawer, like cabinetry.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know, but that makes a lot more sense than windshield wiper.
Yeah, we thought they were windshield wipers for the longest time, which is like this would hurt. Like they get to a point. It's like,
I feel like there's a whole coffee table book in there somewhere, like what we used to think it was and what it turned out to be.
I love, yes. The Han Solo gun emitter, which turned out to be that World War II aircraft, German aircraft variant, whatever. I remember Jay Ritzman. That's who I was trying to remember the name of, because that was his shtick. He found a firefighter.
I remember that video. Yeah.
And we all thought it was a nozzle from an old antique fire extinguisher or something.
It did look like it, but it wasn't. That was made out of like a soft metal, right? Like if you,
it was like a
crush it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it looked just like it.
Yeah. And then the other one that we all thought it was for the longest time, which is great, and it's I think I think the back of it is a heat sink, and that's what's used on the Obi-Wan saber right above the AS hand wheel. It looks like a gear, but I think I think that was a twofer. I want to say that was a twofer. I can't believe I can't remember exactly, but when that part was ID'd, it blew the theory out of the water that everybody thought was for the longest time. It was like a some sort of press for like dough, or it was like some antique kitchen-y item. It was like it was like an iron, it looked like a gear, and then everybody also thought it was a gear from a lawnmower. Like that was the big, like, we just gotta figure out which lawnmower. And there were guys going like looking under lawnmower.
Right, yeah, totally. So somewhere there was scouring lawnmower in yard sales.
Yeah.
And the short grenade was a motorcycle grip or something. Everyone was sure it was a motorcycle grip.
Yeah. That there's a part right now. We saw a photograph from John Dykstra shared a picture privately that shows the one named Falcon being built, and there's a back deck made of like machined acrylic that has the vents with the little fans. And in this one photo, that part was flipped over on its back, and you can read the make and model of those fans.
Ooh,
and
nice.
The three of us who saw that immediately ran to eBay on our phones. We're like, like, because you got to get like 6 of them or whatever. And to this day, I've not found one. I found one really close, and I actually have it's like a model number off, but it doesn't look right. So that's classic RPF. Like, it's not the right one. It's total crap. You flip the table.
Right.
But I bought it just because I wanted to have something close in my hand, just to see if I wanted to get 6 of them, and I don't think I do. But it's just the satisfaction of knowing somebody got their hands on one would be great. But I'm going to scan the art from the logo and make a t-shirt, which is another thing a ton of RPFers did. There were so many t-shirts that just fetishized the manufacturing logo of the parts that were used. Like, and I wear like Graflex shirt, with the little line.
Yeah.
Just classic.
I believe SS Designer still has that on his Etsy store.
Yeah, I think I might have to get a couple shirts. Yeah. SS Designer with it's like a squirrel cartoon logo.
I think something chomping on wood or something.
Maybe
so my favorite is the Blade Runner gun. Like, that was a mind-blowing day. But I got another one for you. It was the discovery, and this was actually I figured this out off the board. The discovery that the case from which Obi-Wan pulls the Graflex to hand to Luke is the same case that Lex Luthor had the kryptonite chunk in Superman the movie. The lead-lined case.
Yeah.
And I have sat upon that very case.
Does the prop company still have it out for rental, or?
Most likely, yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, when I learned that, I was like, oh, like, it's plain as day too. Like, they didn't paint it, they didn't change it. It's just the case.
Do you remember hearing about people who, as all of these discoveries were being made, would, and I guess these are people who lived in California, would go to these prop rental houses and find those things, knowing that was actually used, and then rent it and just never return it and pay the fee or whatever. And now they've got a screen used component.
Yeah, the mastermind behind that, the pioneer of that was he would go rent, and then he'd either duplicate and check back in a replica, or he just I think there was a story, I may be remembering this wrong. It was about one of the Ghostbusters slime packs. Remember Ghostbuster 2 when they sprayed the slime all over? One of those packs were available for rental, and someone just rented one, and it had been sitting in a corner for 15 years. They rented it knowing full well what it was, and they were like, and then they called a couple weeks later, like, hey, it got lost in production. They're like, all right, that'll be like $250. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's funny going to Apex, which is a what would you call that? Electronics and salvage, like surplus store. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I've been going to Apex for only 8 or 10 years now, on and off, when I'm out in LA visiting. Like, I go out to hang out. Like, how crazy is that? Like, my life is I can afford to fly across the country to spend a long weekend doing this, essentially, but in person, but we go to Apex, and the jig is clearly up with a lot of the stuff. Like, they have a couple flame that look like IG-88, and it says like, not for sale, you can rent this for like $900 an hour, and you're like, all right, I figured it out. Okay. But
get it.
I will say the first time we went, you know, you're starry-eyed, and that was before the fan make and model was identified for the Falcon. That was on our get list, so we were going through a lot of fans looking to see if we could score that. Nothing. The blockade runner part, I was like, what if, you know, like we didn't know as much as we do now about the actual physical part. And I will say, as an aside, I did a photo series as a joke, artfully done in black and white. I made one of the replicas that are, you know, the resin that we had worked up, that Craig had drawn up, and Salzo had cast, and I started putting it places in Apex and taking photos. Like, I just posted them, and occasionally somebody would be like, did you? Yeah, and I'm like, that's a joke. But we did find X-Wing and Y-Wing and Escape Pod heat sinks for like pennies compared to what they charge now. Like if you go to DigiKey or whatever and buy them, and the very elusive heatsink that is on the Skyhopper. So that was, I feel like, so late in life to find a part in the wild that I personally needed on the cheap. Like,
Yeah.
all those days
Yeah.
of going into a camera place or a thrift store and getting a Graflex flash tube for $25, you know, like that ended like by 99 easily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you've reminded me of something else, like that's, it's not really, it's sort of prop tangential, but it sort of ties into this whole, you know, the fascination with the found parts, with the discoveries. I've really gotten into filming location finding. And you guys were recently in Los Angeles, and I understand you went to the Bradbury building, but it was closed. But like living in downtown LA, like there's like everything is filmed here. Including big chunks of Blade Runner. So there's like all kinds of movies where like I'll just be walking to the grocery store and I'm like, that's where they filmed that scene in Fight Club, right there. And it's like I get that same sort of enjoyment of discovery, of finding that sort of film material in real life. And I still get a big kick out of that. It's good stuff.
That is cool. Brian can attest to this, but when we go visit Gene, he'll drive around, you know, and I always joke, I'm like, are you gonna take us to where they found the parts of the Black Dahlia? And one day he did drive by and he's like, that was the field, it's not a field anymore. And I was like, hooray! But like, yeah, we were driving one time, I think it might have just been Gene and I, and we come to a stoplight and he goes, that's that Superstore thing. And I had been watching Superstore like at the time, and I was like, wait, what? And it was the it was the outside in the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, that's Superstore. And he's like, yeah, it's Cloud9 or whatever the hell. I don't know, who cares? And kept driving, like he didn't care about it at all. But I was just like,
right at the back of the studio. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's fantastic. So to live there, I mean, like, my only claim to fame is I live in Parkville, Maryland, which is where they filmed, where John Waters filmed A Dirty Shame. And when I first moved in here in 2005, there were a couple trees that still had the genitals sculpted into them. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but Tracy Ullman gets knocked on the head and becomes like obsessed with sex and has like weird visions and stuff. So the production had made like just very accurate depictions of crotches and put them into trees and made it look like bark, and just left them. So that Johnny Knoxville's truck repair shop, which I think is now a tinting store, and the convenience store are all within walking distance, which is, who gives a shit, but it's still kind of cool.
I got the Bradbury building in walking distance, but
yeah, that's pretty cool.
The great thing is, by the way, you guys haven't been in there, but like it's almost identical. Like if you just put like a mannequin in the corner and put some water on the floor, it's the exact same. Hasn't changed.
I was there in 2012, I want to say, and you could only go up to like the first veranda or whatever. I think the rest of it might even be, I think it's office buildings or there's now a shared workspace thing in there where there's a bar. Oh.
So if you ever want to go get a drink there, you got to make an appointment, but you can like go get a drink in the bar. And there's usually a photography exhibit happening. And last one was the Blade Runner photography exhibit.
We're totally doing that. We have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were, I mean, like,
that sounds perfect. Sign me up.
Yeah. One time we walked through the Blade Runner tunnel, which I think is a lot of car commercials are filmed there also.
Yeah, every car commercial. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we went to the hotel where Arnold Schwarzenegger rode a horse up in the elevator. True
The
Lies.
Bonaventure. Yeah, Bonaventure. Lovely, lovely sky bar at the top. It rotates. Great.
Had a drink there. Yes. I need to do that again. And was that the same place where that's also Buck Rogers like HQ or whatever?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exterior for Buck Rogers. Also the interior for Interstellar. That was like the NASA lab thingy that turned out to be the spaceship thingy.
Huh.
That was basically the Intercontinental Hotel. Yeah.
That's cool.
Not Intercontinental, sorry, the
Bonaventure.
Bonaventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to, I think it was just me. It all blends pre-pandemic, man. Went to San Francisco one of the trips before hopping to LA, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna spend the night in the hotel where they filmed High Anxiety. And then I was like, that's $600 a night. I'm gonna Airbnb in the Castro. It's like pivot.
Well, the Biltmore, where they filmed a bunch of Ghostbusters, is a very affordable hotel. Like you can get a nice little upgraded room for like $200. It's super fun.
Really?
I had the best day there. I was downtown shooting, actually. I had a gig, and that's where I spent the night, both nights, and beautiful hotel. And I'm standing there in the elevator lobby, reliving some of my favorite scenes from that movie.
That's great.
Yeah, and like once you've sort of been in there, filmed Taylor Swift video there, by the way, highly recommend. But once you've sort of been in the hotel and you sort of looked around and you sort of absorbed the space, you see it in everything. It's in everything. It's everything.
Is that
like every other week in the West Wing? If you ever revisit the West Wing, it's constantly being filmed there.
Is that the Taylor Swift video where she's invisible to everyone?
That's the one. Yes, sir. That whole thing. In fact, I've scouted every location in that video. It's all shot like either in the Biltmore. There's a place down the street called St. Vincent's Court. Like when she's dancing on the car and it's raining, that's there. Yeah. And then a bunch of it was shot in the Los Angeles Theater in the basement.
Ah.
So it was all shot like in like a 2-block radius.
Subway? Doesn't she get on a subway car at one point? Or is that the same video?
No.
No? All right.
Perhaps we could do a viewing party.
I may be a Swiftie, and I'm not gonna. Bryan and I have geeked out over Taylor Swift multiple times. Yeah,
I'm so excited. Like the latest addition to my collection. So I saw her Reputation tour when she came to the Rose Bowl, and there right near the end, there's all these confetti cannons that shoot these little newspaper clippings into the air. And I grabbed a bunch and put them up. Not that I was, stealing, just a little souvenir. And for my birthday present, I received a signed copy of one of those.
Wow.
By Ms. Swift herself. So
very cool.
That's cool.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
That's awesome.
So that said, like what did you guys covered so much in the first video? Are there other like actual RPF topics we should talk about?
Oh my God, there's a million. I mean, like we've joked over the years that every year we drive to Wonderfest from Baltimore to Kentucky, and it's like a 10-hour drive, and it really is like therapy. Like we drive out, and it's like a little like therapy session, and then the weekend happens, and then we decompress and do the postmortem.
I do miss prop parties though. You guys had a big dialogue on prop parties. Those are super fun. I ran a bunch for the West Coast crowd for years, and then it just kind of wore me down. And then the torch got passed to Brad Fife, who I hear will be a guest in a future episode.
Yeah.
And now they've really turned. They've like matured so much. Like it used to be like Dave and Buster's bonus room, and then it was like Rumpus Room at my apartment complex. Like
I remember that.
And now it's like at a working Hollywood shop where there's real projects taking place all around you. It's like it's very different.
Yeah, and half the people drive their Jurassic Park Jeeps or time machines to the party.
That's right. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
The ante has been upped over the years. Well, and it's fascinating to me too that 20 years is a long time to be into something, and how we all started with a general love of a general thing, and how we've sort of drilled down personally to our sweet spots over the last couple decades. Like I have settled into models, and I settled into studio scale, and then like my hands kind of got crazy, and I decided I should learn 3D because I saw that those days were sort of numbered, and that opened up a door to build more elegant stuff from nothing. And now I'm making like the concept replicas, like that probe droid I just finished up. And like,
Yeah.
It's so non-linear to get to this point where, and part of that also is like, at a certain point, we all, I think, feel deep in our hearts that we've done everything. We're like, we ran out of shit to build. Like, like there's only so many times you can build an X-Wing until you're like, maybe I should try something else. But, I'm about to start another X-Wing. So it's like, that's evergreen, I guess. But like doing the concept stuff, I feel like that was new territory for me. And it's kind of cool. Like, have you seen that happen to yourself? Like, and you spoke a little bit about how you maybe the act of making the thing is the experience that you treasure more than the item itself. That's absolutely true for me. Like, I need to just know that I'm getting better, just for, because it's pride in my craft, I guess.
What's the question there? I lost it halfway through.
Yeah, there's no question. No, were you have you felt surprised at where you are now as opposed to where you started? Let's say it that way.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, like the projects have gotten more expensive and more hard to obtain, more hard to do, and bigger in size. I think to sort of switch the question a little bit. By the way, I know can we have one more session? Because I got a few more. I got one question I did want to ask both you guys, and I don't know if we'll have time. Here's the question: Is there one piece, one item that you've wanted, or that you've tried to build and haven't been able to, or tried to acquire and haven't been able to? Is there one thing where if you could just do that one thing, you would have a sense of closure? In general.
Yes, they're actually, yes. Bryan, do you?
I don't know what closure would look like to me. I think for me that there's always one more thing I want to do, either from a technique standpoint or from a building standpoint. I always have that yearning.
Yeah.
To just keep going.
Yeah.
I don't know what that pinnacle would be, and maybe I'll be able to articulate it when I find it.
Like I would love, like, man, I mean, the episodes write themselves. Like you need look no farther than your frontal lobe to just rattle off 10, 20 episodes. Like Saga. I mean, that's a two-parter right there. Yeah. Or fucking geez, pick any one of the cast of characters that all got booted when they did the house, all the people they just kicked out because they're like, you guys are actually dicks and you're not welcome here anymore, so get the fuck out.
So, bye. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just while there's my little it's exciting. The video is named Delicate, by the way, if you would like to
yes.
Okay, sorry. All right. So did you finish the answer about your sort of white whale? The
Brent?
Thing?
Yeah, so I was saying to you offline, so what I was thinking is, I don't want to find it, but at the same time, I think about a fully mechanized R2D2, like really done right and well executed. I think that would be up there. I'm on my third proton pack that I'm making, right? I'm obviously chasing something here. But I would put R2D2 on there if I ever.
So do you mean like a 232 conversion with the talking and the all the lights and everything, or
like crazy stuff? Yes.
Okay.
And the smoke screen from Empire, because why the hell not?
You could do that, dude. That's all been pioneered. You need only follow in the footsteps of the geniuses who preceded us.
Yes.
Yeah, mine is the only thing stopping me from starting it and making it is that I literally do not have currently the shop space to do it. I want to do a 5-foot Falcon. I want to do the new 5-foot Falcon. I have all the parts for it, which took easily 10 years to get. Some of the pieces are just so crazy rare. And I, you know, withoout the help of people in Japan, I literally would not have been able to find these kits. And it will happen, you know, eventually. I'd like to get when we move, whenever that is, we'll get a shop. I'll get a shop, like, even if it's just a 2-car garage. It's literally like, if I built it in the basement, it would be like those crazy guys that build submarines or cars or boats in their basement, and then like there's no way to get it out. I could build the blockade runner, and I just haven't yet, because just the stars haven't aligned. Again, almost all the donor parts with that one. And I calculated that if I build it and stand it on its engine and walk it out of the shop, turn, and then rotate it so it's flying, it will just, like by an inch, without the radar dish on it, clear the landing to the side door. And it could go out, because that's how I get like the washer and the dryer into the house. Like, it comes in sideways, and then these poor bastards have to like move it. Like, the house was built in 25. All the doors are like 28 inches. It's a nightmare. But yeah, it would.
Well, I support you entirely in your 5-foot Falcon dreams. That'd be awesome.
It will happen.
I got another hard hitting question for you guys. Tell me about a unique or amazing experience that you had that was a direct result, or maybe like 1 degree of separation from your membership in the RPF. Something that being a member of the RPF directly contributed to you experiencing.
Bryan?
No, you go first. I need to think through that one.
Okay. I am on the RPF. I make friends with people. One of those people is SD Studios, Steve Dimzo. He starts up master replicas. About a year goes by. We have prop parties. We are introduced in the flesh, chat a little bit. He starts realizing he's going to be busy, but still likes to collect models. Asks me to make a couple models for him, just for his personal collection, like a Japanese Zero I made for him. And then one day I get a fateful call. Hey, we're over a barrel. Can you cancel your 4th of July plans, essentially? And it was like, I'd only been dating Lisa, my wife, for like a couple months at the time. So it was sort of a big ask to do a paint master for the AT-AT. We need 2 of them. We need them like in 4 days, kind of thing. And I said, sure. And he's like, we'll pay you and we'll give you an AT-AT for free. And I was like, wow, jeepers. You know, like that's, I mean, it was cool. I think about that now and I'm like, cash, please. But, but at the time, that was the sweetest thing ever. And I distinctly remember thinking like, holy shit, if I hadn't have found this place and been on an internet, I never would have met any of these people and fulfilled my ultimate dream of painting something that would be an official Star Wars product. And then the next one was, I'm now flying on my dime to the archives to reference the real stuff for master replicas. And then very shortly thereafter, now they're paying to fly me out and do that. And a couple of years goes by and that all falls away. And I'm like, man, that's never gonna get topped. And then later, but wait, there's more. But because I'm so plugged into that scene that the RPF was the kernel of, like I'm on the map as a builder, and our Star Wars story thing happens where Jordan Hemsrow comes over and interviews me for StarWars.com. Crazy. And then just this past year, Lucasfilm directly is like, would you build a model that's never been built before for a new property we have? And I was yeah. So I went from
High Republic, bro.
Yeah. So I went from better than Shadows of the Empire. So I went from like lurking on a board to making a canon model, parts of which I was able to design myself, the surface detail, but that counts. Working from concept art, which is the dream. That is the 4-year-old in me dream that I have been chasing this entire time, is working at ILM. I mean, that's where it starts and stops. Always has been and always will be. And like to then hear like Lauren Peterson, who ran the shop for a million years, say, oh, I would have hired you, it's just you're 10 years too young and on the wrong coast. You know, like, while conceptually heartbreaking, that's the greatest thing anybody could ever say.
Sure. That's
you know,
great.
like, Jesus, like I did it, you know, like that, without finding the RPF and making all of those connections unwittingly, very clumsily, you know, all those doors opened.
No, that's great. That's a good one. That's good.
Yeah.
I think that also, and Bryan, I want to hear your answer, but I want to say that also sort of launches into what could be a future discussion about how, like, what are the traits of someone who turns out to be a productive member of the community long term. And I really think, like, the common thing I've noticed is just people who, the thing they want to do is just make stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to make stuff. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to rip people off. I just want to make cool stuff. All right,
Yeah.
Bryan, have you thought of one?
I fit into that bucket though of just wanting to make cool stuff. And so mine is going to be a little bit less anticlimactic than Jason's, but it's really traveling the country and meeting friends and developing deep relationships with people. And I kind of started to talk about it in the last conversation that we had, but like Jason is a completely biased. I vacation with Jason.
Yeah.
We've known each other on the board for 20 years. I've known you for 20 years, Matt, and you and I have hung out together at a Japanese restaurant here in town with Bryan Dunn, and hung out in LA together. To me, the real life relationships have been extraordinary, and I will say that the real life relationships have also led to some really incredible experiences, because I'm not going to out the person, but there's a person who knows that I'm into photography, that I'm passionate about photography, and also passionate about Blade Runner, and was like, I was visiting him in LA, and he's like, oh, come here, I want to show you something. And he had in his possession for a period of time the production stills that were taken during the shooting of Blade Runner. And the photographer had notations about camera settings and film that was being used, lenses that were being used, cameras, everything. It was so well notated. And we're looking over on this light table, and I'm seeing slides of these images that, even as a digital photographer today, I couldn't imagine trying to take these pictures during production in the middle of the night today, let alone in the early 80s with a film camera, not knowing what the result would be until days later. To me, that has been the relationships and the experiences because of my friends has been, impactful to my personal life.
See, you went high road. You went like really endearing and lovely. I was just like, I got to play with the Boba Fett helmet for real. And you were like, I made lifelong friends, and the like love and friendship. That's so much better. It really is.
And I'm seldom accused of being sentimental and things like that. So I guess now here's documentation that I am capable of being sentimental.
Yeah, you are known as a monster.
And mine sort of, it goes off the rails fast. So years ago, when I was trying really hard to contribute more, and I was making little tutorial videos, and I was posting them to either the RPF YouTube station or my own. And if you'll remember Vulpin Props, Harrison Cricks, he invited me to join him at PAX East for a panel. It was like me, Bill Doran, him, shoot, I don't remember who the fourth person is. But so I flew out to PAX East, did a great little panel. While I was there, met a few folks who were like, hey, would you make a couple things for this upcoming video project, this YouTube series we're doing? I was like, I would love to. So I built some things for them. And then I said, I love shooting behind the scenes footage, like making little short films about behind the scenes stuff. Can I shoot behind the scenes stuff for your project? And they're like, yes. And like from there, it just snowballed into doing BTS for like a couple Star Trek projects, meeting a bunch of the Star Trek alums. And I ultimately ended up writing and producing a sci-fi short starring Richard Hatch of Battlestar Galactica, and forged a friendship with him. And I think at the time he was starting to get ill, and that ultimately led to his death about a year later. But just like making a sci-fi movie with Richard Hatch shooting at like this great sci-fi set downtown, not downtown, but in the valley. It's like the most shot sci-fi set on the planet. And none of that would have happened if not for the RPF and the people I met along the way.
Yeah, it really is staggering to think about, and how we were talking about like, was it you, somebody offline, and now it's I've been contacted by a lot of the old guard, if you will, this past
Everybody wants in on this, bro. This is it.
It's either that, which is awesome, or they're just like, thank you for like remembering, like, and accidentally chronicling like some of this stuff. That's fantastic, and it really is. And like I'm excited that like more people like are interested in participating and telling their tales of woe and excitement. But somebody was talking about, I think it was Ryan on Facebook actually, how a lot of us don't go to the RPF anymore necessarily. Like it's not like I lived on that board like all day, every day for a couple of years there, more than a couple of years, and how it got fractured with Facebook and stuff. But like the RPF before it got huge was you would go there and it was almost concise with intent, and people were contributing to making things better. You could ask a question, somebody would answer. There was a lot less noise. There was a lot less, hey, gimme.
Oh, for sure.
And it was everybody making. And there was so much consternation when like MR started, because like, oh God, someone's got the license. We're all getting cease and desist.
Right.
Yeah, it was nuts. Because there were so many runs of like Jedi Council sabers about to go off, you know, and like, are we gonna get sued for making a Ki-Adi Mundi? You know, like whatever.
Like Plo Koon saber is gonna throw me.
Yeah, and like it is kind of fascinating that like that is probably why I don't go to the RPF as much, because I don't feel that sense of communal like intent focus on the making as much as I used to. Now it's just sort of for me, like if I make something and I'm like, hey, I should show this to some guys at the RPF in case they're not on Facebook and Instagram. You know, like it's become another platform. And Facebook is interesting because I feel like whenever you post a picture of something on the RPF, it used to be like, how did you make that? Or wow, what parts did you use? Or oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Now it's, can I get the file?
Right. Yeah.
Like not even like,
you consider sharing the file for free for that?
Yeah. Not even that looks nice. Good job, bro. Like they don't even start with that. They're just like file.
I'm a big fan of dishing out good job bros, attaboys as I call them.
Yeah.
There's still people doing such great work. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, and I also love constructive criticism, like somebody telling me, I think maybe blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, awesome, great. Like, like I want feedback, both good and bad. I don't want the bad feedback to be like, you suck and you're an idiot, like give me a little more. Why am I an idiot?
Yeah. Back that up.
How can I not be an idiot in your opinion?
And people can't take criticism anyway.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, say what you will about the comments I've made, over the years, but the intent is always to try to make someone look at it from a different perspective or be better at what they're doing, because that's what the RPF did to me. They challenged me when I was working on things to be better.
Yeah.
And it's was it Mona Lisa Saperstein, money please, for the files. Or or it's they don't want to hear anything that's contrary to, oh, what you did there is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what if it's not?
Yeah. Well, what do you got? I got I got two other hard-hitting questions, by the way.
Go.
First one, which we covered in a side convo, but I'm curious what you guys have come up with when we're on camera. It kind of relates to an earlier question, like if you could name what you would think is the most amusing thread on the RPF, or the one that sort of gave you the most chuckles, and I'll take Advacned action suit off the table and say that's mine. Can you think of anything that's just absolutely historically classic that no RPFer should be unaware of?
Yes. And this will be probably where I use a lot of sound effects to bleep out actual names. I'm going to say them publicly now, or privately now, to all of you. Okay. So there was a guy who had a display room in his home, and he called it. Now everybody had a display room or display nook, like display something. Like it was a lot of IKEA cabinets. Yeah, exactly. Like those are IKEA, right?
Day-tall, sir.
Yes.
Day-tall. Yes, sir.
The day they stop making those will be a dark day indeed for helmet and replica collectors. Yes.
Indeed. Oh yeah, helmet people will give up. They'll just be like,
Yep. So everybody had a room, and I think we touched on some of these guys were more affluent than others and had some pretty bumping like situations going on. This guy, and taste being different, like people have different aesthetics. So you both know where I'm going.
You're so polite.
Yeah. He had a Star Wars museum, and it was that black grid wall that's metal dipped in a like plasticized coating that I guess is meant for like armories and firearms. It seems very utilitarian, like
in 1980s storefront.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and it dominated. Yeah, it dominated the walls, and then he had like cabinets or whatever, and he had things on display. But the display would be like a all metal Han Solo blaster made from a actual decommissioned mouse, like a really nice replica of something that probably cost hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, to make. And then like a vinyl Han Solo action figure and like a literal collector's plate with like Harrison Ford's face on it. And he's got like a weird mix of like really nice stuff and really kind of like chintzy tchotchke stuff. And it's crazy cluttered because like he's got a lot. And he says, "This is my Star Wars museum." It was this huge thread reveal, and it was very lovingly made. And I want to say it was the very first response was who said, "I can't wait to see the museum because the gift shop looks great." And I think it was like midday. I feel like I experienced that entire thread in real time because I remember reading it and just this wave of joy that I've like this wave of mirth I've never felt before or after hit. And it was just like, holy shit, everything had to happen in history and the universe to coalesce into this one moment of incredible takedown.
So on point.
Oh my
God,
on point. So brilliant. And everybody,
but also just so devastating too. Like that's sort of the dark side of
it. And he was just being kind of a brat. Like it was like, I can't not do the joke. You know,
right.
You would think that most people would be like, haha, very funny. Like, okay, you know, everyone has their own taste, or, you know, like clearly bruised ego, but whatever. No, this guy melted down. He just melted down.
Yeah.
And it was, and that at the time was amusing, you know, because it was like, come on, guy, it's a fucking, he's being sarcastic, like.
And point of order, it is still amusing 20 years later. So not just at the time.
Yeah, I will randomly chortle about that.
Like, just when you're on the freeway and you're
kind of. Yeah, like Mr. Burns remembering that crippled old Irishman. Yeah.
The gift shop.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right, Brian, what about you, sir?
Building off of that, and I don't know if you'll even use the story, but it's worth mentioning, was at some point that person sold off parts of their collection, which included a collectible plate collection.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, I don't know how this picture got to me, but somehow at some point, a certain person bought one of those collectible plates and ate chicken wings off of it, and and took a picture of it, and I just died.
That's
thought,
cool.
I remember that photo with the sauce on the plate.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Data or Spock or somebody like that on the plate, and I was,
I remember that. Oh, that was so good.
Deep cut. All right, I got one more question for you guys. If there's one piece of advice you could give to new members of the RPF, or maybe even one edict that they had to follow, what would it be?
It would be your signature line.
Don't sell something you don't have.
Ta-da! Yeah, that's where it starts and stops for a road to happiness. If you think you're going to get into this in any sense of the buy and sell dynamic or whatever. Like
it goes wrong so often. Pretty much like 9 out of 10 times, would you say? It goes sideways. Good intention.
Yep. It happened to me sort of low level kind of recently, only because like I have an ambitious project that it's still planned, but it's been delayed by a couple of years because of the pandemic, because I'm relying on somebody else for an integral part of the thing to happen. And that's fine. But I had 2 guys really interested in getting in on it with me, which makes, like if you're going to machine something, machine 3, and it's a little bit cheaper. And I ended up just paying them back the like deposit or whatever, because they were like, I just felt like it was taking too long. And I've seen so many times where $500 can ruin a friendship. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, like, and I had taken that money and invested it in there, and I just paid them out of my pocket, which is again, fine. And when that happens, I'm a grand more into my end of it, I guess, like whatever. But like you can get very messy very quickly.
On that topic, I will confess, and I know I've messaged you over the years conveying this sentiment. It has been a joy watching you grow as a builder. Just seeing you when you sort of just as you bring on new tools, as you bring on new skills, as you sort of get better at 3D modeling, at printing, like it's like thinking of where you were even just 5 years ago,
right?
And I think that's one thing I really appreciate. And I know you sometimes you comment on getting dinged for sort of living your life on the internet, and honestly, man, I love it. Just seeing your art continue to evolve over the past 20 years has been really great.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I used to make zines in high school, and then I had a college newspaper comic that was sort of my life. So I've always barfed a diary publicly out there somewhere. Like, so like I'm always like, well, why aren't you more online? And it is a presented part of myself. Like, there is more to me than what I share, certainly.
It's a curated view, you would say.
I think we mentioned cannibalism earlier, like but yeah, like it is crazy to go back and reflect. It's why we're reflecting on all this stuff, man. Like, I mean, watching your projects have always been very like monumental in my psyche, like the Matmobile, like holy shit, like that's some pretty intense stuff. And I don't go to conventions and wear don't do any of the cosplay stuff, but I've seen some of the stuff you've pulled off, and I'm like, that's cool.
It's going to go 2 ways, but it's along the same thought process, which is try to be a maker and not be a collector. That's first. And then tied to that, which we started the conversation, is fail fast. And don't be afraid of failure. Failure is good. Failure is great. But it's learning from it and then immediately correcting and trying to do something with it. Don't get defeated and throw up your arms and say, fuck this hobby, I'm totally out, I'm not doing this ever again. No, go back to the workbench, work through it. It will benefit you.
That's great advice, man. I always think failure is the best teacher. When I was a kid, I mean, how many times you touch a hot stove when you were a kid, right? I mean, twice for me. I think for me, so my advice is I mean, it actually ties into both of you guys. Like, I would say make your time on the forum about the craft. Your focus should be on the craft. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to post, you know, if you want to take a swipe at someone, or you want to just debate something that doesn't matter, that should be secondary to the thing you're building, or the thing you're researching, or the thing you're passionate about. I think too many, myself included, like I feel like I wasted a lot of time trying to convince someone that the Corbin Dallas gun was indeed a live fire gun, not CGI. And that's time I could have spent working on my replica.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, make it about the craft.
Yeah, I like it. Do you have any, I guess, final thoughts time, right? Any final thoughts? We have to have some sort of wrap up.
I mentioned this in a Facebook discussion. Like, I'm curious if in 20 years from now, we will look back on this time in the hobby and think as differently about it as we think about the 20 years prior to today.
I firmly believe absolutely. Yeah. And part of wanting to do this was 20 seems like a nice round number. It's arbitrary because that's only 2002, but you know, ish. And I just see everything rapidly changing, at least in my section of the scene, with the 3D prints and just the commerce of barfing out STLs and everybody making prints, you know, but that's where you start. So I'm not knocking it, but I see a lot of like the old timers sort of like bemoaning it. And I'm like, well, is this us getting pissed off that now cars are water cooled and not air cooled, and kids don't know what, you know, like,
right.
Progress, whether it's good or bad, it's different. So yeah, I think in 20 years things will be different. But yeah, we've got the time warning because I don't have the fancy Zoom. I guess I should pony up for that one for the next one.
Yeah, 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, but I want to thank both of you for taking a couple hours out of your precious Sunday to in this era where we have so many options socially to go out and see people and do things. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to share some of the stories. Anytime you guys want to come back and do it again, like, I'll do this forever. I feel like it's fun.
Jason, I do have a favor to ask you and everyone who's watching.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
I never say that. I probably should. Yeah.
It's a call to action. It's an RPF call to action, Jason.
Yeah.
Bryan, good to see you again. Jason, good to see you again. I will be deeply offended if you guys come to LA again and don't look me up.
I didn't even realize you were within walking distance from the Bradbury. That's crazy. So
Kidding.
yeah,
that's the same.
You might have been the guy that spit on us. I'm not entirely sure.
I might have been me. I do that. It's my thing.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Also, I think it would go without saying is stay tuned for a special Patreon offering where we're going to offer exclusive content called Fuck That Guy, where you pay us some money and you get to hear all the dirt that you've always wanted. We're not doing that.
Special segment we like to call Fuck That Guy.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
All right, I'll see you all in court in that case. Yeah, but thanks, guys. This was super duper fun.
Super fun, guys.
This
Yeah.
was
Awesome.
great. Good reunion.
All right, bye.
Bye, gentlemen. Bye.
Bye.